15-year-old Lexi J. Brown is behind bars after she attempted to kill a sleeping mother. At 2:33 a.m. on Friday the 14th of June, authorities responded to a residence in the 13,000 block of D Avenue in Gulfport, Mississippi on reports of a cutting incident. When officers arrived, they entered the premises and found Lexi's mother in a bedroom suffering from multiple stab wounds. The woman told investigators that she was asleep in a bed when she awoke to find her daughter attacking her with a knife. After fending off her daughter, Lexi then tried to start a fire inside the home. The victim was taken to a hospital for treatment where she's recovering. Lexi remained on scene and was taken into custody. While questioned by detectives, Lexi, who appeared to be influenced by occult beliefs, said that she had been planning to kill her mother because she found her to be a weird bitch, and that she accused her of suppressing the black in her. Lexi is charged with attempted murder and arson, and remains held at the Harrison County Jail on a $1,250,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 2 women are behind bars after breaking into a home and attacking the homeowner. Police said that around 1:10 a.m. on Sunday the 16th of June, they received a call from a 30-year-old woman who saw a light shining in the basement window of her home in Park Lane, Franklin Square, New York. She then heard aggressive knocking at the basement door before the 2 suspects, later identified as Ashley Dunn and Kelly Walsh, both 27, entered the residence without permission. Once inside, the 2 women attacked the victim, pulling her hair, punching and slapping her repeatedly. The victim sustained injuries to her head, neck and chest. Officers arrested Ashley and Kelly at the scene without further incident and charged them with first-degree burglary. The victim refused medical treatment for her injuries. The investigation into the matter continues. 59-year-old Timothy Ray Lisby is behind bars and is accused of killing his 31-year-old son Christopher Allen Lisby over dirty dishes. On the afternoon of Friday the 14th of June, authorities responded to a mobile home at 3522 Dogie Road in Indianapolis, Indiana, reports of a person stabbed. When officers arrived on scene, they went inside and found Christopher on the living room floor bleeding from the chest after suffering a laceration to his heart. Medics rushed him to the local hospital in a critical condition, where he later died. A roommate, Jeremiah Green, told police he witnessed the killing. Jeremiah said that Timothy and Christopher got into a fight inside the residence and wrestled each other to the floor, and that the pair began arguing over dirty dishes in the kitchen. The witness insists that Timothy first tried to attack his son with the handle of a spoon. Jeremiah said that Timothy had a spoon in his hand and started stabbing Chris with it. Chris said, "Jeremiah, get the spoon out of his hand." "So I did," he said. Jeremiah claimed that Timothy went back into the kitchen to get another weapon. He said that Tim ran into the kitchen and grabbed something shiny, something sharp, and thrust it into Chris's chest as hard as he could, and that's when Jeremiah called 911. "Chris was my friend. I loved him to death," Jeremiah said. "I've never seen anyone bleed that badly, and it really hurt me. When he stabbed Chris in the heart, it's like he stabbed mine." Timothy tried to save his son's life and begged for him to leave before paramedics arrived. Jeremiah said that he was putting pressure on Chris and saying, "Don't die, don't die. He killed the only friend I have in the world. He's going to have to pay for what he did," he said. "Since that day I've been crying and I can't sleep," Jeremiah said. Police arrested Timothy on an initial charge of aggravated battery, and he remains held at the Marin County Jail with bond denied. Since filing the battery charge, the case has been turned over to homicide detectives and further charges are possible. The investigation into the matter continues. 2 men are behind bars in connection to the rape and strangling death of 12-year-old Jocelyn Dangari. At around 6:15 a.m. on Monday the 17th of June, Jocelyn's body was discovered floating in a shallow creek along the 400 block of West Rankin Road in Houston, Texas. Billy Jackson, the woman who found Jocelyn's body, said that she was driving home from dropping her husband off from work that morning when she made the disturbing discovery. She said, "I drove past and when I looked up the creek, I thought it was a mannequin. I did a U-turn and stopped on the bridge, put my flashes on, looked down, and realized it was someone. I parked right here and called 911 immediately," she said. Investigators said that Jocelyn snuck out of a home nearby at around 10 p.m. on Sunday the 16th of June, just hours before she was found dead. Authorities said that on the morning of Thursday the 20th of June, they arrested 2 individuals, 21-year-old Johan Martinez and 26-year-old Franklin Paranimos, and charged them with capital murder. Authorities said that surveillance footage shared by the community helped police determine where Jocelyn and her assailants were moments leading up to her death. Investigators learned that the suspects had dinner together the night of the murder. After their meal, they left the restaurant and began walking in the area. Police said that the suspects, who lived in the same block as the girl, approached Jocelyn along Key Kendall Road, and they all walked to a 7-Eleven convenience store. Jocelyn was talking to a 13-year-old boyfriend on the phone at around midnight when he heard her talking to 2 adults. Minutes later, all 3 of them walked to a bridge where Jocelyn was raped and strangled to death. Johan and Franklin then continued walking to their residence, leaving Jocelyn's body behind. After days of investigating, on Thursday the 20th of June, authorities located the 2 men at 13355 Northborough Drive at the Camfield Lakes Apartments complex, located less than half a mile away, and took them into custody. The investigation into the matter continues. 25-year-old Keijon Janice Ellis is behind bars and faces multiple charges after stabbing a man. At around 1 a.m. on Saturday the 15th of June, authorities responded to the parking lot of Petro Mart on Scoop Boulevard in Columbia, Missouri after a man was stabbed near his ribs. Authorities said that Keijon had an argument with another person earlier that evening and that she called the victim to pick her up. The two then got into an argument, and Keijon pulled out a knife while sitting in the man's vehicle and threatened to stab him. The victim then drove into the Petro Mart parking lot. Keijon then got out of the vehicle, walked over to the driver's side window and stabbed the man. The victim had recorded the beginning of the argument on his phone, and Keijon was seen with a knife in her hands. Multiple witnesses told police they saw the two arguing and fighting. The man then fell out of the vehicle and onto the ground with blood on his shirt, stating that he had been stabbed. Keijon then fled in the vehicle. Keijon was arrested and charged with first-degree domestic assault, armed criminal action, and unlawful use of a weapon. She remains held at the Boone County Jail without bond. The investigation into the matter continues. A 35-year-old man is behind bars for shooting a 50-year-old family member. At 1:06 a.m. on Friday the 14th of June, authorities responded to a residence at 4532 Southeast 116th Street in Runnels, Iowa on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they entered the premises and found the homeowner deceased with a gunshot wound. The victim was identified as 50-year-old Richard David Selby. Police said that there were several people inside the home who witnessed the shooting, but the suspect, 35-year-old Jacob Cole Harbolt, had fled the scene before officers arrived. Neighbors reported hearing people running out of the house yelling he shot him. At around 3:30 that morning, officers located Jacob during a traffic stop in Des Moines. Jacob was arrested and booked into the Polk County Jail on a first-degree murder charge. Authorities said that Jacob and Richard were related, but have not released further details on the matter. The motive of the killing remains unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. Homicide police are investigating the fatal shooting of a 9-year-old boy. The shooting occurred at around 12:05 a.m. on Thursday the 13th of June at the Woodlands Apartments complex located in the 9000 block of North Swan Road in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Authorities said that someone began firing a gun outside in the backyard of the residence, and multiple stray bullets shattered the glass of an upstairs bedroom window, striking Jonel Zambrano in the head while he was in bed. The boy was rushed to the hospital in a critical condition, where he died from his injuries. Surveillance footage captured 3 men in the parking lot of the complex in front of the residence, 2 of whom were seen firing shots into the air just minutes before Jonel was struck and killed. Jonel's family said that Jonel was always happy, friendly and fun, and that he didn't deserve this, and they want those responsible to pay. No arrests have been made to date, and authorities are asking for anyone with information in the shooting to contact Crime Stoppers. The investigation into the matter continues. 44-year-old Dusty Shane Wheeler is behind bars for fatally shooting his girlfriend 36-year-old Heather Bradford at their home. At around 6 a.m. on Friday the 14th of June, authorities responded to a residence at 305 Sunny Ann Lane in Mountain Home, Arkansas on reports of an unresponsive woman bleeding from her ear. Paramedics found Heather in a lawn chair outside of the residence in front of the garage door, with no pulse and cold to touch, with a gunshot wound to her head. When officers arrived, they found Dusty asleep on the couch inside the home. Heather's parents were on scene and told officers they had received a call from their daughter earlier that morning, stating that she and Dusty had been fighting and he had struck her in the face. It's unclear what the fight was about. Paramedics informed police they had found a shell casing from a handgun in the driveway. Officers asked medical personnel if they had recovered the gun, but they had not seen it. Heather's father then retrieved a gun that his wife had picked up from Heather's lap. The mother was afraid her daughter might wake up and she didn't want her to grab the pistol, so she took it and put it in their vehicle. Officers noted an entry wound on the left side of Heather's head, and officers confirmed she is right-handed. During questioning at the police department, Dusty alleged that he saw the gun in Heather's hand as officers escorted him to a patrol unit, unaware that it had already been removed by the victim's mother. Dusty is charged with first-degree murder, and he remains held at the Baxter County Detention Center on a $1 million bond. The investigation into the matter continues. A 31-year-old man has been charged with sexual extortion of a minor. On Tuesday, the 11th of June, authorities received information about a sexual exploitation case with a suspect living in Scottsboro, Alabama, and the juvenile victim living out of state. After further investigation, 31-year-old Kenneth Gage Maids was arrested that night and charged with sexual extortion, tampering with physical evidence, and possession of drug paraphernalia. He remains held at the Jackson County Jail with bond set at $503,000. A 71-year-old woman is behind bars for killing a roommate for being too messy. At 9:28 a.m. on Thursday the 13th of June, authorities responded to a residence at 1000 East 26th Avenue in Tampa, Florida on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they located an unresponsive man with gunshot wounds to his upper torso. The victim, whose identity has yet to be released, was transported to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. Upon further investigation, detectives were able to determine that the suspect, 71-year-old Patricia Whitehead, and the victim shared a residential space. Patricia became angry with the victim, claiming that he did not clean up after himself. On the day of the incident, the victim was leaving the residence when Patricia heard the victim slam the door. Patricia retrieved a firearm from a bedroom, exited her residence, and shot the victim multiple times. Patricia is charged with first-degree murder and remains held at the Hillsborough County Jail without bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 21-year-old Trevor Beatty is behind bars on multiple charges after fatally shooting his 15-year-old girlfriend Aliana Dickey inside her apartment. At around 6:10 p.m. on Friday the 14th of June, authorities responded to a first-floor residence at 1171 Lawrence Street in Lowell, Massachusetts after a relative called 911 after finding Aliana unresponsive inside with traumatic injuries to her body. When officers arrived, they found Aliana deceased with multiple gunshot wounds, and several shell casings were found at the scene. Aliana's father, Scott Dickey, tried to get hold of his daughter by phone that day after finding out that she had not been at school. Unable to make contact with her, he reached out to a family member who lived nearby so they could run over and check on the girl. Neighbours reported hearing an altercation in the area between a male and female at around midnight outside on the street. One 911 caller stated hearing a female screaming, "Get off me, get away from me, I don't want to be with you anymore," followed by gunshots. Police responded to the scene, but did not find anyone along the street. Later, video footage was recovered that showed Aliana yelling for help shortly before midnight. Trevor was seen leaving Aliana's Lawrence Street residence after midnight. After initial investigation, authorities learned that Aliana had been in an abusive relationship with Trevor. She confided in a number of people that Trevor had abused her and threatened her as recently as middle of last week. Police learned that Trevor had taken an Uber to and from Aliana's house before and after the murder. The driver of the Uber reported that he had a suspicious passenger and was concerned about Trevor's behaviour. On the afternoon of Monday the 17th of June, Trevor was located roughly 30 miles away in a Peabody residence and he was arrested without incident. He's charged with murder, armed home invasion, unlawful possession of ammunition, use of firearm while committing a felony, and discharging a firearm within 500 feet of a building. The investigation into the matter continues. An inmate fatally shot a prison employee before turning the gun on himself. The incident occurred at just after 4:30 a.m. on Sunday the 16th of June at the Smith State Prison in Glenville, Georgia. Jay Drakus Hart managed to smuggle a loaded gun into the kitchen and fatally shot cafeteria worker 24-year-old Orion Grace 3 times, once in the head and twice in the chest, before taking his own life. It's believed that the two were romantically involved, and Orion recently ended the relationship, leading to the shooting. Jay Drakus was serving 20 years for voluntary manslaughter out of Carroll County, with a maximum release date of June 2043. This is the second staff murder at Smith State Prison in the last 8 months. Authorities said they are conducting a thorough investigation on what led up to the incident, including how Jay Drakus obtained the weapon behind bars. No further details have been released at this time. "48-year-old Melissa Hoffner Allen is behind bars for killing her 50-year-old husband Ricky Allen. At around 10 p.m. on Tuesday the 18th of June, authorities responded to a home at 16222 Country Ridge Drive in Kearney, Missouri on reports of a man shot. Authorities said that Melissa called 911 and told dispatch that she had shot her husband and that he wasn't breathing. When first responders arrived, they entered the premises and found Ricky unresponsive with a gunshot wound to his chest. Medics attempted life-saving measures, but they were unsuccessful and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Deputies found a spent shell casing at the bottom of the staircase. The shell casing matched the rounds in a 9mm pistol recovered nearby. Investigators observed a defect in the drywall, indicating that a possible disturbance occurred due to the particles of the drywall having fallen to the ground, resting on top of animal hair and animal food. While processing the scene and taking photographs, deputies noticed bruising on Melissa's arms. The probable cause stated that Melissa was wearing a tight dress at the time of the shooting, which meant she could not have had the firearm on person and had to separate herself from Ricky and return. Deputies took Melissa into custody at the home. During an interview, Melissa told investigators that her husband was mad at her and choked her. She said she grabbed a gun from upstairs which Ricky had recently bought for her and repeatedly told her to shoot him, which she said she did. Melissa was booked into the Clay County Jail and charged with second-degree murder and armed criminal action. During her arraignment on Thursday the 20th of June, she pleaded not guilty to the charges and was released after posting a $250,000 bond. As part of her release, she's not allowed to leave Missouri, possess any weapons or make any contact with her husband's family. Her next court date is set for the 15th of August. The investigation into the matter continues. A man is facing child enticement charges after he lured 2 young girls to his residence. On the night of Wednesday, the 4th of June, the children's mother and 43-year-old John Wesley Graves had been drinking together at her home. At around 11 p.m, the woman fell asleep and John convinced her 5-year-old and 7-year-old daughters to go to his home at 5043 Walker Avenue in Lincoln, Nebraska, using promises of toys, games and candy. While there, the girls reported that John locked his door so they could not leave. At some point during the night, the 5-year-old girl drank from a cup she found and became ill. The mother had woken up around the same time to find the girls missing. Her 8-year-old son told her that they had left the house with John. She tried calling John several times, but after he failed to answer his phone, she started walking to his house. On the way there, she ran into John as he carried the ill child. At around 4 o'clock in the morning, authorities were contacted about a lethargic 5-year-old girl in need of medical attention. The girl was transported to a hospital and treated for ingestion of an unknown substance. Police later interviewed the woman and her 2 children. The mother told officers that she never gave John permission to remove any of her children from her home without her. Both girls denied any sexual abuse occurred. On Monday the 10th of June, John was arrested and charged with 2 counts of child enticement and 2 counts of child abuse and was booked into the Lancaster County Jail. On Wednesday the 12th of June, John was arraigned on the 4 charges and his bond was set at 10% of $500,000. His next court date is set for the 10th of July. On the 6th of May 2015, he was convicted of child enticement and was sentenced up to 5 years in prison and was required to register as a sex offender. In that incident, an 11-year-old girl met John at a local park and was invited back to his apartment. She was given some hot chocolate and he added alcohol to it. The girl later had a blood test done at a hospital and showed she had a blood alcohol content of 0.11. John is also accused of sexually abusing 2 girls aged 11 and 13 in 2021 when he was dating the girl's mother and gave one of the sisters cough medicine and melatonin to help her sleep. John has not been charged in that incident, but the case remains open. The investigation into the matter continues. 14-year-old Jessie Stone is behind bars for beating and sexually assaulting a 91-year-old woman. Authorities said that the attack occurred after the woman was awoken in a home along Northwest 148th Place in Reddick, Florida, at around midnight on Sunday the 9th of June. At the time, she reportedly found someone sneaking through a home and she was beaten and sexually battered. The victim was later taken to hospital, where she told detectives that the suspect pounced on her, punched her in the face and sexually abused her before he fled the scene. The victim later explained that the day before the incident, a neighborhood youth named Randy John, later identified as Jessie Stone, came over to her house and talked with her. She explained it's been a while since the boy stopped by to talk with her, but when he was younger he used to do it more often. She described the teen as a good boy, but she didn't know anything about the other people he hangs out with. The investigation took a turn when Jessie approached detectives canvassing the area, claiming a neighbor had security footage they wanted them to see. The footage captured a figure resembling Jessie jogging past the house the night before the attack. Jessie initially denied that the figure was him, though DNA evidence linked him to the assault. On Thursday the 13th of June, detectives located Jessie at North Marion High School, and he was taken in for questioning. During the interview, Jessie admitted to entering the woman's home to watch pornography on an iPad in the living room, before entering her bedroom and attacking her. Jessie was arrested and taken to the Department of Juvenile Justice, where he faces charges of sexual battery and burglary. Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods said, "It came as a shock that any individual will commit such an act on a 91-year-old. It's truly disturbing when we see the young age of the arrestee. Although I firmly believe he should be held accountable for his crime, as a father, my compassion goes out to his family. Hopefully his arrest will lead him to getting help that prevents any further such acts," he said. A 22-year-old McDonald's employee is accused of shooting into a customer's car following a complaint about an incorrect order. Police said that around 1 a.m. on Friday the 14th of June, they were called after a shooting at a restaurant at 715 East Memorial Boulevard in Lakeland, Florida. They said the dispute began when two customers in a vehicle informed an employee that their order was incorrect. Investigators said that Chastity Gardner argued with the customers at the drive-thru window, then threw a drink at them as they tried to leave. The two patrons exited the vehicle and opened the drive-thru window to throw drinks at Chastity, who then armed herself with a handgun. The customers were driving around the west side of the fast food restaurant, and Chastity came outside the business with a gun to continue the argument. Chastity fired a weapon twice as the vehicle was leaving the parking lot, and the victim's vehicle was struck at least once. No one was injured during the ordeal. Chastity was arrested for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. She was booked into the Polk County Jail but was released on a $15,000 bond. 27-year-old Julian Ray Boyd is behind bars and is accused of committing child sex crimes. Authorities said that Julian and children were camping in tents in front of a yard of a residence in Stover, Missouri. A victim eventually woke up an adult in the house and described the assault, who then contacted law enforcement. Julian denied sexually assaulting the child, but stated that he hugged the child who snuggled up to him while they were talking. On Saturday the 15th of June, Julian was charged with 2 counts of statutory sodomy of a child younger than 12 years of age. He remains held at the Morgan County Jail on a $250,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues.